BTMC, Asmongold, and the gigantic Russian YouTubers It's Mamix and The Brian Maps. What connects these four people? I mean, the content they make on this platform is literally nothing alike. To see that, just the fact that they're not even all English speakers is enough. What really connects all four of them is that they sold you and your trust, just to make a quick buck. Who did they sell you to? How their advertisement of this awful product is hurting you and others? I'll answer all these questions shortly, but for now, let's talk about how your favorite YouTuber just sold you. The first question I have to answer in order to continue is what exactly these YouTubers advertise. Well, as you may have already somehow guessed, it's Honkai Star Rail, a JRPG released by Hoyoverse for PC and mobile devices. Now, just to quickly clarify something, you might say Asmongold is first not even a YouTuber, and second, he never actually advertised Honkai Star Rail directly, but he has been streaming this game pretty often and he's been actively speaking out positively about it. So I'd count that as advertisement. That, however, is besides the point. All of them, either through a paid advertisement or active endorsement on live streams, have encouraged their loyal fan bases to play Honkai Star Rail. And you might ask, what's wrong with that? Once you learn some of the downright awful and disturbing things about this game, you might rethink if A, you want to actually try this game out, and B, if you ever want to trust whatever these YouTubers are advertising ever again. We're going to go point by point, discussing the manipulative tactics, dark secrets, and downright disturbing details about this game, and figure out exactly why these YouTubers advertising it is so awful. I mean, you might as well just go play Roblox instead. At least it doesn't steal as much of your fucking data. Exhibit 1. Privacy policy. See, anytime you install any kind of software onto your PC, there's this neat little thing that comes along with it called a privacy policy. This is a document that explains what data this software will collect from your computer, who this data will be distributed to, and what it will be used for. Now, if you're an ordinary PC user, you probably just skip past that most of the time. But when you're installing Honkai Star Rail, I'd suggest you not be so quick to do that. Let me explain why. As an example of an actually reasonable privacy policy, we're gonna select the privacy policy of Steam, a gaming client which I'm pretty sure everyone has on their PC. Let's go down to point 3, the types and sources of data we collect. Now here we have actually reasonable stuff. Basic account data, transaction data, other data you explicitly submit, your use of the client and websites, your use of games, cookies, content recommendations, and required data to detect violations. Nothing that steps out of bounds, only stuff that Steam actually needs to function properly. But now let's turn to HSR and see what points they have in the same segment of their privacy policy. They collect account registration information, your birthday, connected social media account information, personal profile information, game data, chat data, malicious content information, user service information, survey information, activity information, IP address, advertising info, payment data, PayPal account, and other information subject to notice. So you're telling me they practically doubled the info they collect relative to Steam, and then at the very end they say that they will collect any other data they see fit? This is quite literally ridiculous. No game should need to collect that much data from your computer. Like, why in God's name do you need my device information? Even Steam doesn't require it, and it's a literal game client. But this gets even more interesting once we go to the point that describes what parties will have access to the data above. Let's turn to Steam and see what they have to say first. Instantly, Steam explicitly states that they do not sell data to third parties. But when we go to HSR's privacy policy, oops! In addition to Cognosphere and or its affiliates, other parties may also have access to your personal data. Next, if we again turn to Steam, we see that the data they collect only goes to spheres that are required for Steam to work correctly. For example, Google Analytics. But HSR literally doesn't give a fuck. They say that third-party vendors will have access to your personal data if they see fit, and when they specify, they'll The last point is other contractors for the purpose of providing our services to you. Translating that to normal human speech, literally anyone hoyoverse wishes to will have access to your personal data, and they don't give a single shit. But this is just the tip of the iceberg with the disturbing things that hoyoverse does to you when you play their game. So now let's go to the next point and discuss how they do literally anything they can in their power to steal your hard-earned money from you. Exhibit 2, microtransaction manipulation. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of honkai Star Rail? Or a more popular example that pretty much every child nowadays can relate to, Genshin Impact. If you're just like the majority of people who are familiar with these games, you probably think the characters. They're the backbone of the game, they introduce variety into the combat mechanics, and oh, their design is so nice, right? I will throw this microphone at you. Stop laughing. But have you ever stopped to think, why exactly is there so much work put into every single one of these characters? I mean, think about it, genuinely. There are so many of them, like literally hundreds, and they all have their own lore and backstory. They all have their own unique look, and they all play a significant role in gameplay when you use them. The answer is actually pretty simple. They're all just a walking ad. Their pretty outfits and cool skills are all just pretty much a manipulation tactic that slowly eats into your brain, and with each second you start to think to yourself more and more, maybe I should put a couple $100 into this game to like get this cute anime girl that I really want. If there's something that looks pretty and well designed in this game, they're probably trying to sell it to you. I mean, as a comparison, look at this NPC. The clothing is literally fucking drawn onto him. He doesn't have clothes, it's just fucking drawn on with a marker on his body. And yet look at this pretty girl that you can get from a banner that you have to put actual real money into, and you suddenly see a huge quality imbalance. Everything about the gacha mechanic and everything that leads into the gacha mechanic has the most work put into it in this game. So you're drawn into spending more money on it. The company is literally trying to extort you for your money, and all of the YouTubers that advertise it never stop to think that they're not pulling you into a fun game, they're pulling you into a scheme that's just made to pull money from people who are easy to influence and gullible. But it wouldn't have been that much of an issue if it was just a game that was forcing people to pay up when playing it. It becomes a real problem when you realize that this game is just a casino for children. Exhibit 3, underage gambling. This game is obviously made for children. There is no denying that. It is an appealing and colorful art style. It's available on devices that pretty much every child and teenager has nowadays. And the gameplay is simple to the point where literally anyone at any skill level can pick up the game. But what's the purpose? Why, instead of making an actually good and interesting game, they decided to make the most objectively neutral product imaginable? Obviously to earn more money. And where's the problem with that, you might ask? Well, the problem is all of the microtransactions in this game are made in a form of a casino. As opposed to games like CSGO, where you could just go to the Steam market and buy the item you want specifically, in HSR you have to roll their gacha and pray to RNG that you actually get the character that you want to receive. Both of these factors combined end up forming a gateway for young and impressionable children to get into gambling. As gambling is pretty much that. You spend money hoping to receive the prize that you wish for. Sure, casinos have the right to exist, but they shouldn't be available to children. You shouldn't let kids gamble. I think that's common sense to pretty much anyone on this planet. I mean, we condemn carnival games and gambling on Twitch streams for promoting gambling to children. Why do we not condemn this? Why do we turn a blind eye when there is literally a platform made for children to gamble on? And the YouTubers that promoted it, their audience is primarily children and teenagers. They knew what they were doing. Exhibit 4, game quality. Alright, let's take a bit of a back seat, literally, and push all those serious accusations aside. Maybe if we look past what I just spoke above, HSR is actually a good game. Well, if you genuinely thought that, you're wrong on so many levels. Listen, I'm not one to rip into someone for advertising a product that's subjectively, or in this case, objectively, just plain bad. We're all out here trying to survive and we all need food on our table. But when it's my home turf, when it's video games being advertised, I can't turn a blind eye to this. I can't handle literal garbage being being tossed in my face by these goddamn influencers. This game is straight up bad in all senses. The gameplay is repetitive, it's mostly based on grinding, it has a huge balancing issue, obviously to force you back into their gacha mechanics so you spend more money on this fucking game. The story, while being relatively interesting, is super fucking tedious and boring to follow. The abundance of unskippable dialogues and cutscenes completely ruins the flow of the gameplay and is completely unnecessary. And to add on top of that, most of the gameplay mechanics are literally ripped straight from other cult classic JRPGs. The most noticeable example is Persona. I mean, fuck, you can't tell me that you don't see HSR as just a plain ripoff after this comparison. For Christ's sake, if you're gonna advertise entertainment, please make sure it's actually, you know, entertaining and not a fancier fucking version of Raid Shadow Legends. Conclusion: Honkai Star Rail is a game that sells your info to whoever they wish, they manipulate you into giving them your hard-earned money, and they pull children into the dangerous world of gambling, all masked under the guise of a pretty and fun JRPG for anyone to enjoy. The YouTubers that promoted this game are just inching you forward into taking this bait, and they know it. They're just looking to make a quick buck from the trust that they know you're putting into them and whatever you advertise to them. If you actually took the bait and you're an active player of HSR, I hope that the points I presented to you above make you rethink if you should continue playing this game. And if you're a viewer of the streamers and YouTubers that I listed above, think twice about trusting a product advertised by them in the future. I was your host, IGN Devi, and goodbye.